Tánaiste, I too want to raise the report into bullying and sexual harassment in the Defence Forces. It was damning and deeply disturbing. It found that the armed forces, quote, barely tolerates women, and that there was a discernible pattern of rape and sexual assault. Moreover, it was a complete vindication of the Women of Honour group and all who were brave enough to speak up. What guarantees do survivors and serving members of the Defence Forces and the public have that things are going to change?
Thank the Deputy for raising the question, and I'm sure, as the Deputy will be aware now, I'm currently progressing a comprehensive programme of actions to address the extremely serious issues that have been identified in the Independent Review Group report. As I said in my initial response to the report, a completely honest appraisal of the problems and a comprehensive plan to address them is the only way to honour the contribution of serving and retired personnel and to rebuild trust. Most immediately, I obtained government approval to establish the external oversight body on a non-statutory basis, initially to drive the necessary culture change throughout the Defence Forces and to increase transparency and accountability. The government has also agreed to the establishment of a statutory inquiry to investigate whether there have been serious systemic failures in the complaints system in the Defence Forces on interpersonal issues, including sexual misconduct. I've been consulting with the Attorney-General in respect of its establishment. I'm also keenly aware of the importance of consultation with all stakeholders as this transformation is taken forward. I met with the various groups on the 27th of March to advise them that I intended to bring the report to government on the 28th of March. I had a further round of meetings on the 2nd of May last with the Defence Women's Network, the Defence Forces Representative Associations, the Women of Honour Group and the Men and Women of Honour Group. In addition, the Secretary-General of the Department of Defence met with the Defence Forces Veteran Associations and with civil and civilian employee unions. At the meetings, a draft of proposed terms of reference for the forthcoming statutory inquiry were shared. I have requested the groups to provide feedback in writing to me so that their observations can be considered in preparing the terms of reference. Work has also commenced on legislative change required, with an initial focus on amending the Defence Act 1954 to ensure all allegations of rape, aggravated sexual assault and sexual assault in the Defence Forces in the state are referred to An Garda Síochána for investigation. This will confirm in legislation the policy instruction issued by the Chief of Staff in relation to such complaints. I have consistently stated that any incident of sexual abuse, whether current or historic, should be reported immediately to An Garda Síochána, and I welcome the recent announcement by Garda Commissioner Drew Harris that dedicated resources have been put in place to investigate such criminal allegations. I have also committed to continuing the interim supports established in October 2021 for both current and serving members of the Defence Forces affected by such behaviour, including the confidential contact person with Raise a Concern.
Thank you, Tánaiste. Deputy Cairns.
Thanks, Tánaiste. I know that we all unequivocally condemn the abuses described in that report, and it revealed a really toxic environment which is unsafe for both women and men. The extreme malpractices were systematic and facilitated by senior officers, while predators acted with impunity. The report found that the Defence Forces is, again, quote, unable or unwilling to make the changes that are needed. You mentioned the new external oversight body to drive cultural change in the Defence Forces, and the Women of Honour group were shocked at the appointment of the Department of Defence's Secretary-General to the board of this body. The Women of Honour compared this situation to the Bishops' Conference being the Secretariat to investigations into the Church. And I know other deputies have raised this, but it's such an important point, I think, that speaks to the government's position on implementing real and effective change. So we see what happens when there's these investigations set up. It's not in the way that the group that are affected are asking for it. And I just want, do you recognise their concerns, or what do you think about in relation to the appointment of that?
Again, before the Independent Review Group was published, the opposition in this House was saying to me, people were saying to me, are you going to implement the recommendations in full? I haven't deviated from the recommendation in respect of the Oversight Group. I think the criticisms were unfair. I don't believe they're reasonable. I think they're very unfair on the Secretary-General. That's my view on that. I think to compare it to the situation of the Bishop and the Diocese is particularly unfair. And it does not bear comparison. And I've engaged with women, the Women of Honour group on this, and I don't accept some of the criticisms that have been levelled at the approach being taken by the department. I'm not clear what department. If it's the view of Women of Concern that the Department of Defence should have nothing to do with the inquiry, which I think is a growing position, or an evolving position. But I think that's will really create a real capacity issue in terms of who, from an administrative perspective, develops the proposals for a statutory inquiry.
Thank you, Tánaiste.
And I think we're open to consultation on the draft terms of reference. I think we have to get movement as well on this. There's very little point in all of us condemning and being shocked.
Thank you,
if we're prepared to prolongate the implementation of the most basic of recommendations. And if you look at the calibre of the people that have been appointed, I'd ask anybody to question the calibre of what has been appointed.
Tánaiste, thank you.
Or indeed their independence from government.
Just a final point on that, I suppose, is that I can't speak for the Women of Honour, but I suspect that it isn't anything personal, and I think it's just a view that they have because they want a kind of really independent review done in relation to this, and they don't want any kind of institutional aversion to change or to, to really kind of calling out what has been systematic. So the systems involved do include oversight of the whole Defence Forces. I don't think that they're coming from the place that you're kind of describing there, but like I said, I cannot speak for them. But the oversight body isn't the only part of the government's response that the Women of Honour group have raised concerns with, both publicly and with me directly. They've expressed their disappointment that you and the department are seeking to design draft terms of reference without any consultations with them, and they feel that the government seeks to railroad through us and others without any courtesy or respect. They've rightly called for a full and rigorous statutory inquiry, and crucially, they should have a meaningful role in determining those terms of reference. Consultation is key in relation to these things, Tánaiste, and we know that. We've seen it go badly wrong without them. To date, they've been sceptical of the process. These women who have exhibited such bravery and determination were left disappointed after meeting with you in the department. On that basis alone, you need to do things differently. I can only hope that you're listening to them and that you're developing a new approach. Thank you.
Just to say to that, Deputy, there was consultation. And the consultation is ongoing. When you had a meeting in terms of reference, we presented terms of reference to all the organisations. A basic draft and emphasised draft terms of reference, which I think is a reasonable, as a starting point in terms of discussions with groups. You present draft terms of reference. We asked for, the meeting was quite amicable. I have to say, the press statement afterwards surprised me, given the nature of the discussion we had. I'm going to be honest here and say things, and I'm tremendous respect for Women of Honour and those who courageously came forward. But also, in terms of the establishment of a statutory inquiry, where we have consulted with all the groups, we've presented draft terms of reference, we've asked for feedback, amendments, change, so we can engage further. That's all that has happened here. I don't know why that is shocking, or why that is condemned in itself. I mean, it's open to other groups to come back to us and say, we actually don't like your draft terms of reference, and then we will consider all of that as well, with the Attorney General's office as well, of course, who, from a legal perspective, will help the drafting, along with in consultation with the groups. So,
thank you. Next question, number 9, is in the name of Reda Cronin, Deputy Reda Cronin.